welcome to the very first podcast of the Singapore College of Insurance. I'm Shalini, the CEO of the college. I cannot be more excited to kick off this series with a topic that's close to my heart: women in insurance, breaking barriers and leading change. Now, the insurance industry is a fascinating field that impacts lives globally. Women are an integral part of this workforce. Just an interesting statistics to start us off today. Women make up about 60% of the global insurance workforce, yet only 19% hold board seats, and in Asia Pacific, just 4% of them are CEOs. Now, these numbers do show that we've made progress, but I think there's still a lot that we can do today. And I'm joined here today by two of these incredible women that make up that 4% of that statistic, and they are shaping the future of insurance. First, I have Miss Emma Loynes, the CEO of Lloyd's Asia. Emma brings with her over 25 years of experience and has been a trailblazer in transforming the insurance landscape across Singapore and Asia. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here, Shalini, on the inaugural podcast for the Singapore College of Insurance. Really excited about the discussion we're going to have today. Even more excited to be sitting next to the fabulous Jenny Lim.
I know, right? Fabulous
Jenny Lim. Who I hugely
Lim.
Admire. So yes, it should be a great conversation.
Yes, and I think we should each have like the incredible Emma and the fabulous Jenny. It's like our superhero names. Yes, so thank you, Emma, for making time to be here. Miss Jenny Lim is the CEO of Howden. Jenny has been instrumental in driving innovation and fostering diversity in her team. Jenny, thank you for making time for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Shalini. It's really a privilege, like what Emma have shared, to be in your first podcast. And I want to say a huge congratulations to you and your team for being creative and finding a new platform to connect more people to insurance. I was listening very carefully to what you say about insurance companies. And I just want to say that this is a very exciting phase because there's so much work that insurance companies are all doing to advance, women's career. And I think I am a product of such a collective effort by the industry as well as Howden.
Very true. Very true. And to your point, I have my SCI team here as well, and it's an all-women team. We've got Shubi, Winnie, and we've got your staff as well, Vivian, right? Vivian as well. So it's a all-female team here in the room, and I'm really glad that we're kicking this off. Okay, let's just quickly start the first question. Personal journeys. What brought you here? What advice do you have? So we're going to kick off. Emma, you've had a great career with Lloyd's. Can you share, what is it? What are those moments or what are those decisions that you took, that brought you here today, that led you here today? What are those? I'd just love to hear what you have to say, Emma.
I would say it really started prior to Lloyd's. And I'd also be honest and say I genuinely didn't take charge of my career probably till my late 30s.
Okay.
And I think that is a really important message, which is not everybody during the course of their career has a very, very well-defined kind of 5-year career plan. And careers can be very kind of non-linear. And I think often that is where you get the most value. I was really typical of some of my generation where basically insurance was very male-dominated when I started out, and there were really few women in senior leadership positions. So that kind of availability of female role models to look to just wasn't there. I think the key thing for me is I've always been, I'm a inherently, I guess, a nosy person. I've always been open to new learning, new opportunities. Kind of, I think knowledge and curiosity can really advance you in terms of your potential to grow and sort of opening you up to new opportunities. And I think 2 key pieces of advice is be prepared to take risk and don't live with regrets, which have stood me in really good stead over the course of, it's a bit more than 25 years. I'm not going to tell you how many years, Shalini, but it's a bit more than 25
it's okay.
now.
You look great, Emma. You look great.
Oh,
okay.
Thank you. What else would I say? I think visibility with purpose.
Okay.
Networks and sponsors, people that will advocate and support you. Mm-hmm. I would also be honest and say a lot of those have male role models during the course of my career. While it is really important to have strong female role models, you can also get fantastic allyship and support from male role models. And I've been, really fortunate to have some formidable people who have stood alongside me and behind me over the last sort of career journey I've had. Lloyd's was an absolute destination of choice for me. I had first visited in 1996, walked in and saw the underwriting room and thought, oh my goodness.
I want to be here.
If I don't work here during the course of my career, I'm going to be really disappointed. And I held on to that until 2018, where the stars aligned and an opportunity came up, and
Wonderful.
and there I was. Joined with a clear intention of getting in there for a couple of years, learning all about the market, and then I was going to be a COO for a managing agent. But it didn't work out like that at all. I had the opportunity to work as part of the global network prior to coming to Singapore, and it just opened my eyes to the fact that, Lloyd's trades in 200 different jurisdictions. That breadth and depth of different kind of global roles was absolutely enormous. And I looked at it and thought, right, that looks fantastic. And so it was all around basically being really clear in my ambition and saying, if one of those roles comes up, I'm prepared to be geographically mobile. I want to be in a position to be considered for that. And I think you'll hear me say maybe other times during the podcast, it's about speaking up and speaking out. So it's probably one of the best pieces of advice I've been given during my career. You have to manage your own career and you have to advocate for yourself, and you need to be honest about where your aspirations are and where you want to go. And that was certainly what helped me. And I guess the rest is history, because here I am.
Here exactly.
So,
yes. Yeah. I mean, it's wonderful to hear that, right? Because I think very often, I don't know whether it's women or it's how we've been taught that, things will happen, that your career happens to you. You get the opportunity, you go for it. But, actually, there are a lot of things that you have to manage by design, right? It's not about just letting it happen by chance. You have to fight for the promotion. You have to fight for the raise. You have to fight to be seen, because everybody, there's a limited space, limited opportunities.
Yep.
And if you, and I think for you, from what I hear, is that you saw that goal ahead of you, right? So, and you saw, I want to be here, I want to do this, I don't mind taking risk and going to a different part of the world, but it's where the opportunity lies and what's best for you. And I think that taking charge of your career, I think it's, and really taking that risk has really paid off for you, and having those allies. And I agree, with you that even for me, my mentors are not all women, it's about what can you learn from, what can you extract from them, right? What is it that in their career that has made them successful, and how can you use that, and learn from that, and that can come in any shape or form. So, I'm really glad to hear that. Jenny, to you, similar to I think Emma, I think you've had an amazing journey as well. What are those moments, that shaped the decisions that brought you here today?
I think, a lot of points that Emma has shared in her journey, resonate with me. But I think for the purpose of this podcast, I will just take a few. I think first one is really, regardless of gender, when it comes to our career development, I think like what Emma has shared, take charge.
Yes.
Take ownership and chart your own destiny. Yep. If I look back at my journey, when I first started out as a young broker, I was very focused on two things. First, building my network. Okay. So I invested a lot of time in building a network, and I tried to learn as much from people around me, not just within the team, but try to learn from people outside the team as well. Whether it's male or female, it both applies to me. And then slowly, when you are at the mid-level, I think it's important what Emma have shared. Seize the opportunity. And I think for a lot of women, one of the things that, a lot of time hinder us is this imposter syndrome. Now, when I was in my 30s, I was being offered a role of the head of financial lines. And I thought about it a day and I said yes. But I was filled with so much anxiety because I had just gave birth to my firstborn 3 months ago. And I'm going to take over a team with so many of them having much more experience of the industry, of the product. But I said this must be something special about me. That's why the management offered that role to me.
Did you have financial lines experience
Very
before?
briefly. But the team that I'm taking over, they are actually, in terms of depth of experience and their knowledge, much more than me. Okay. But I just write on one factor that if the management has confidence to give me that role, there must be something.
True.
And in a couple of years' time, together with the team, we grew actually the practice to be one of the leading team in Singapore. So what is the takeaway? The takeaway here is be brave. And when you find that the role is somehow where you only have 50% of the confidence to do it, that's the right role. Because that's where the role can stretch your potential.
Very true. And I think this, I was reading about it, statistics, and I think this is where I would say, whereas for you, Emma and Jenny, you took that leap, right? You took that leap of faith and you trusted in your own abilities, and you say the rest, the universe will align and make it work for you, right? So, but according to the statistics, women generally, when opportunities are laid out in front of them, they say that women generally look for maybe almost a 90% fit, 95% fit before they would try for the opportunity. Whereas men, the 50, 60%, let's give it a shot. So I think, if more of us, just like you both, they just stepped up and then looked at, okay, how do I stretch myself for the rest? And, especially for jobs, I think there's a lot that you can learn along the way.
Absolutely. I
right?
think
You don't need to be an expert from day one.
No, I think the really important thing you said was about being brave. And I think that is absolutely critical.
Correct.
Which is, I heard a great piece of advice not so long ago, which was you've got to leap before you look.
Okay.
Sometimes in your career.
Sometimes.
Because,
okay.
and I think what Jenny's talked about is a perfect example of that. There are pivotal moments in your life that could apply to many of us, particularly as working mothers, where you think, I can't do this. I can't manage it all.
Correct.
Again, that whole piece around why me? But actually, if you take that kind of sort of the bravery part of it and you do the leap before you look, the rest of it will come. Because if you innately are somebody that kind of will commit and, really kind of give yourself 100%, which many, many women do, even
Correct.
when that 100% isn't there to give, they'll still find that 100%
Correct.
to give, because you have to juggle, you have to manage it all. And I think bravery and imposter syndrome is another really interesting one. We could get into a big debate around that.
I think we could have a topic.
We could.
Talk for hours about just imposter syndrome.
There you go.
But I think, the thing here is, I think this is such an exciting time for women in insurance industry because, there are so many women before us that have taken that courage to step up, and they have shown us they could break the ceiling, they could break the barrier. So to me, that's what is very inspiring for all of us to be here sharing our stories, because there's so many people who look up to us to say, if she can do it, I can do it better. That's what we want to do.
Correct. Correct. And it's to inspire a movement, right? So how do we get more people to step up, to be brave, to take that leap of faith, and I know that you are inspiring people within your own team as well as across the industry. Now, let's just quickly move on to, about creating that equitable environment. We're talking about breaking barriers. We're talking about leading with change. I think creating that equitable environment is not just about fairness. It's also tied to the economic impact. It's tied to societal well-being. Now, how do you think greater gender equality can influence not only insurance, but the communities that we serve as well? What are your thoughts, Emma?
I think that Jenny's right. It is a really, really pivotal time for insurance, really exciting time to be insurance. But what I would say is across the insurance sector and financial services more broadly, there is a real diversification of maturity in terms of that kind of development of equitable workplaces. And I think it's much broader than kind of just gender. I think, if you are committed to building fair and equitable workplaces where everybody can thrive, and you've got that authentic kind of leadership that backs that up, therein lies success. But I think that, as I said, there is varying levels of maturity, and that's something that we've got to improve. You've got to recognise, I guess, the values and the contributions people can make from different backgrounds and different experiences, because it isn't exclusively a gender issue. Employers, businesses, and the wider community can gain real benefits from that adoption of workplaces where there's multi-ability, where there's diversity of gender, of cultural background, of socioeconomic background, of thought, of cognitive kind of sort of, I guess, a sort of difference as well. And I really think that basically those organisations that have actually grasped that and have kind of are demonstrating that kind of move to that kind of inclusivity of workplace practice are going to gain the advantage, without a doubt. But it requires a mind shift, a mindset shift for sure. And I think commitment, a real commitment to sustainable action, which I think we are seeing in the insurance industry overall, but we need to see much greater pace of change and much more commitment to kind of, as I said, to those sustainable sort of working practices. I think it's about finding common ground, best talent, best teams, best outcomes for businesses and employees. And I think if you look at things like the attraction of high performance culture, and that is what attracts and supports people into your workplace, is that commitment to high performance culture. And it doesn't matter about gender or background. People want to work in environments where there is the opportunity to work in high performing teams. The final thing I'd say is it's not easy. I think we've definitely seen great strides forward. I wanted to pick up on your statistic about kind of 4% of Asian CEOs being female, because in the business I work in, I'm really proud of the fact that over 50% of the CEOs are female.
Very
and over
good.
50% of those CEOs are Asian females.
Wonderful.
On the platform in Singapore at Lloyd's. And, that for me is, as Jenny says, that demonstrates actually that we have made progress.
But what is it, Emma? What is it that you're doing differently to really flip that statistics? What is it?
I can't take credit for that because obviously,
okay,
I'm not responsible for
But there must be something that they're doing, right?
But I think it's more around Lloyd's as a business, as a broader business. One of the core pillars for the strategy at Lloyd's is all around culture.
I see.
And that is something that I've seen significantly improve since I joined in 2018. And actually, I think there are so many kind of examples of people within Lloyd's in senior leadership positions actually genuinely walking the talk on culture, which I think is really key. I think it's about all of those people. You look at those women and you think they are basically hired on merit, on their technical ability, on their leadership ability, on their kind of their ability to actually influence and drive the insurance industry in Asia and more broadly across the region. And I think, it's about merit.
Okay. Jenny, your thoughts?
Yeah.
How can insurance play a bigger role in the communities that we serve? What can we do in terms of bringing in that whole greater gender equality, and how can that influence what we do at the industry as well as the communities that we serve?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question, because I think promoting gender equality is definitely more than making business profitable. To think there are two important things. First, when we talk about promoting gender equality, actually at the core of this is providing more support for women, for men, to balance their career as well as their caregiving responsibilities. Now, particularly for women, because I think in Asia, that our culture is such that there is a stronger expectation for the women to be the main caregivers. So I think, when we give more support, for, women to balance that, I think when we respect their role as a caregiver, what are we doing? We are indirectly promoting a more inclusive and a more caring society. So what kind of support are we talking about? Like I can share that, for example, in Howden, we give them, regardless of men or women, as long as you're caregivers, additional caregiver leaves. We support you by having mental health, support, as well as flexible working arrangement. Now, beside at the workplace, when we give such support and we are indirectly building a more inclusive and caring society, I think it's about uplifting people's life. Especially at our levels, where when you have greater balanced gender workforce, where at the leadership level where we are more visible, we are telling stories.
Yeah.
We're telling people to aspire bigger, that there's so much that you can do, to reach your potential. And that's why, I say again that I'm excited to be part of this podcast, because I think sharing stories is a very powerful tool to help people to uplift their life, to dream bigger, to aspire greater.
Yeah,
I think
very
that's what I feel, it's more than just making economic impact.
It's the human side of leadership, isn't it?
It is.
It's absolutely that
Yeah.
human side of leadership, the being authentically yourself, as you say, kind of aspiring and inspiring kind of the future generations by being authentically yourself. Because I think the other thing I'd say is it's about role models. Relatable role models.
Yeah.
So, if you look at the kind of young talent now, they need a whole diversification and diversity of role models, relatable role models that they can look up to, and that they can learn from, and we have an obligation, I think, to pay that back, to pay that forward.
Very true. And just seeing someone that looks like them,
Yes.
Being in that position of leadership, I think already opens up, in their mind that the world is out there for them to conquer, right?
Yep.
So I think that's
Yep.
really
Yep.
wonderful. Just looking out. Okay, so we were talking about the insurance industry. Now let's widen our scope a little bit. Let's look at the broader landscape, okay, of gender diversity in insurance, especially in Asia. Women hold about 35% of the workforce positions, but only 13% of executive roles and 19% of senior management roles across Asia Pacific insurance companies. I know, Emma, you say that in Lloyd's, that's a much better number.
Yep.
Singapore leads. As we can see, Singapore leads with the highest percentage of women in C-suite roles at 14%, while I think other countries like Japan and Hong Kong maybe lag behind a little bit. Looking at this, okay, against this backdrop, right, how do you see the role of women evolving in the industry, and what steps are you taking, and in your company as well, or what should companies be taking, to accelerate the progress that we have to bring more women, to the table? Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because statistics are very much discussed, but actually what you don't often see is the kind of underlying sort of actions that people are taking to actually address what statistics tell you.
And even then, Emma, you could take 10 steps and could move the needle like maybe 0.5 or 1 as well, right? A lot needs to be done.
But I think you still can't underestimate the value of data and insight in actually driving that action. I think if you look, for example, that data enables you to kind of get a really good, I guess, understanding of the workforce kind of compositions, the policies, the practice of firms kind of who operate across our market, and actually what progress they're making. And I think it's about tracking that data. It's not a moment in time. It's about that consistent tracking of that data and insights to see sort of where that progress is being made, where there are still gaps, and where we need to take action. If you look, for example, in the UK, 36% of leadership positions in the market are held by women. And I think you are seeing sustainable improvement across a number of kind of the different sort of data points, but we know the work's not done, right? So 14% in Singapore still gives us a significant, significant opportunity for improvement, right?
Yes.
So I think that's really key. I think it's collaboration across the industry as a force for change. You asked the question about what can we do to address that. The power is in the collective, right? Not in individual organisations. If we want to contribute to that sustainable change, we have to do that as a collective.
And consciously, right?
And consciously.
Yeah.
I think it's about structured programmes for the development of female talent. I think it's about making sure that education and development and kind of, the sort of investment in the capabilities and skills that women need, that there are absolutely, we make sure that there is the right sort of support and education, but that it is tailored for females and for across all spectrums of the career journey. Jenny talked about the employee benefits they have in Howdens. I mean, that is a core part of it, around things like employee policies, about sort of benefit packages, well-being packages. They have to be front and centre of actually looking at how you drive that inclusivity in your workplace and how you enable, not just females, but kind of all of your workforce to kind of have the best working environment to succeed.
That's true.
And I think you look at the loss of women across key stages of the career cycle. How do you make those interventions at times when you're at risk of losing some of your best female talent?
That's true.
So whether that's kind of returned from maternity leave, where it's basically older sort of females that have caring responsibilities for elderly relatives, for career returners. So it's basically across all of those stages looking and saying, what are the interventions we need to make and how do we support women at those stages to make sure that we retain that talent? Because I think sometimes that part is not as kind of well thought through as it could be. Yeah,
we take a more like one size fits all kind of an approach, when actually there should be a more nuanced approach across the career life cycle, right?
Absolutely. And I think the other thing as well, particularly if you look at insurance industry, and I notice this perhaps a bit more in Asia than in London, it's about looking and saying, start early. Start, that discussion around kind of the value of kind of sort of women and what insurance careers can do. And as we keep saying, how exciting a time it is to be in insurance. But you start that by talking to people of school age.
Yeah.
And so that sort of across that kind of whole sort of journey, you're inspiring and sort of provoking thought and debate and interest from from not just females, but all sorts of different sort of backgrounds and experiences around, what a career insurance can mean. And I think the final thing I'd say, and we mentioned this earlier, is you own your responsibility to pay it forward.
Very true.
You recognise, I do, the female leaders who have supported me and played a key role in kind of contributing to success, and you actively show up for the young female talent in our businesses and across the wider industry.
Very true. And very true, as you climb up the ladder, how you lift people up along the way, right? I mean, I think I always say this, that it's about the people that you lift and not the dead bodies that you leave behind. It's a shared journey.
Yep.
And as leaders, I think the legacy we leave are the people that we groom and we nurture to move up along with us, right? So I think that's very true.
Yeah.
Emma, very true. Jenny?
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I remain very hopeful and excited again for the insurance industry, especially in Singapore. Now, I think a lot of top leaders right now are coming into this shared vision that diversity is good for the business, is good for the society. And if you look at the progress, again, if I look at Howden Singapore, currently we have achieved, a 60% leadership at the top leadership level.
Very good.
It will not be possible a decade ago. So I think, is to show actually how much, the collective effort has already made such progress. I know, there's work to be done, and I totally agree. Statistics have shown us that more work has to be done. But I just want to celebrate that we have also come a long way, and there are many companies that are already, like I say, making huge progress. Now, if I delve a little bit deeper into the statistic, my observation is when you look at the gender balance ratio at the entry and mid-level, frankly, we are doing very well. Everyone, in a lot of, especially in insurance industry, it's quite a balanced gender ratio at the entry to the mid-level. Now, this is where Emma say, let's look deeper into the problem. Now, the problem is when you are at the mid-level. So what happened? Typically, the women starts to have family, and that's where there is quite a substantial number of them dropping out of that career climb. Why? Because that is also when they are being positioned to be a senior leaders. Now this is a crossroad for a lot of women. And I come back again, in Asia, there is actually some expectation for the women to put family the first, to be the main caregiver. So, I respect, I fully respect women at the point where they make a decision to be a caregiver. Frankly, I think their work is even harder than CEO. Yeah. I full respect. But I believed that many women did not have that choice. So this is where I come back to what Emma said. At the intervention, we, collectively must make more so that we don't have too many of the dropout at that level when we are climbing to the most senior level. So what have I observed, in the insurance industry that prevented that dropout? I think first of all, a lot of insurance companies are putting what I call the tactical, improvement, whether it's like work leave, flexible working arrangement, employee benefits, to try to, make it possible and feasible
for them to
women
balance.
to balance.
Okay.
But I think it's greater than that. It's that belief. I think this is where the top leaders are coming in right now. They are coming to you. It's not just making the work feasible. They're coming to you to say, I recognize you are a talent. And I am going to personally mentor you and help you to actually advance your career. I think that's pivotal. For someone to believe in you. It's not just, I'm going to the office, I got all this working arrangement. Because you must understand culturally, they are also having some emotional difficulty to say, should I be at home, to be the CEO at home?
And there's a lot of guilt that comes with that, right?
Exactly. But when you have a top leader telling you, Shalini, I believe in you, I'm going to help you, you have something greater, I think that's very, very pivotal for people to make that choice, to be the CEO at home or to be the CEO in Howden or in SCI or in Lloyds. I think that's important. And I think thirdly, peer support.
Yeah.
I think, and this is where I'm seeing a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm. There's so many of my friends right now, women or men, coming together to celebrate stories, to really, in their own way, take up proactive initiative, to celebrate, the stepping up the women, to come together, to support one another, to uplift each other. So I think this is where I'm super excited, and I think, the future is going to be so much brighter than where we have been right now.
Very true.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that it's human nature not to celebrate success and to always be looking forward all the time.
Because you don't want to be seen as trumpeting your success or whatever.
But Jenny's right. There is a lot that we should be celebrating.
That's true.
I mean, I look back. I mean, I've been a working mother for 25 years. And I think when I was starting out in my career and had just had my family, you did not talk about your family at work. You did not talk about your children. You did not acknowledge that you were a parent.
I see.
So that has changed so much in that time. I mean, we didn't have family-friendly policies. We didn't have flexible working arrangements. We didn't have a lot of the kind of the focus now, as Jenny says, on that kind of group of people that kind of sort of came around you and supported you and recognised the journey you were going on and allowed you the kind of the space to sort of manage both things.
And I think what is more fun right now is not just women supporting women, it's men and women supporting women.
Everyone,
and I think
right?
that's so fun,
Yes, I
That's
agree.
actually where you realize, this is not exclusive. This
true.
is very inclusive.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
Very true, very true. But I do feel that, that women must support women. I don't see why we don't. I think, I know Taylor Swift says this very well. There's a special place in hell for women who don't support women. I agree with that wholeheartedly, so, but and I think also family support, right? For giving you that courage and telling you it's okay to take that opportunity, and that I think that family support also sets you up well. When you have peer support, you have your mentors, you have your maybe your bosses telling you should do it, but that family support also helps, for people to step up and do it.
But be realistic, be honest with people, right? As we have a responsibility to be honest, to say sometimes you can't have it all.
That's true.
Right? It
That's
is
true.
often, and I have found this, you can't have that kind of, that holy grail of work-life balance all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes the balance is out and you have to accept that. And I think what's brilliant about workplaces now is there is support and advocacy for people where the balance needs to be more in terms of their family life.
That's true.
And their work life needs to kind of perhaps, take not a back seat, but kind of is not the priority. And I think that the same in the other direction. And I think that is perhaps one of the biggest sort of developments and successes that we've seen is that recognition.
Yeah, and I think, that's very right. When we talk about celebrating success, we're not saying that, look, you have to put your best front, the brave front to say everything is good.
Yeah.
I have taken pauses in my career because, it was at a time when it's the kids are really young, it was trying. So I think, right now the way to success is porous. You can take a pause, you can actually take a back seat, but you can come back again to achieve greater. I think, it's how do you make the timeline work for you?
Yeah. Okay, very good. Okay, and we're going to give you another statistics. Okay, this is an interesting report by Swiss Re. It states that gender equality isn't only about fairness, it impacts the bottom line. Okay, so we are all about the bottom line. Everyone in the business thinks about this. Okay, so let's talk about the bottom line, right? So Swiss Re in 2019, in their 2019 report talked about achieving gender equality could unlock an additional 2.1 trillion in insurance premiums by 2029. So that's potentially increasing premiums in Asia by around 45%. So what are your thoughts in terms of this economic impact, and how can insurance capitalize on it? And I think people always say that, if you educate a woman or if you give women an opportunity in business, you actually feed a family or you look after a family. You educate a woman, you lift the whole family. So similarly, this opportunity that we could unlock, what are your thoughts on it, and what can insurance do to capitalize on it?
I am not surprised at all.
Okay, very good.
That actually having greater gender equality makes business more profitable. I mean, there are many reasons behind this. If you think about it, when you have more peer support, you have greater productivity. When you have diversity it sparks innovation. And when you have diverse talents with diverse culture, it promotes global sales.
That's true.
And if you look closer to Asia, there's one interesting trend, which is actually the growing emergence of women's clients. I mean, women are more educated right now, generally in Asia, and they are also financially more independent. And right now, because we can multitask so well, we're also looking after the financial assets of our aged parents or, the family. So there is, a growing market for this. So I think, it's also important that we have a balanced workforce so that we can better capture this growing market. So I think Emma has actually shared just now one good example. Right now, when we think about health insurance, we start to think, how should that policy better cater to some women health issues to make the policy more relevant to them? Now, you asked about that question, how do we capitalize on this opportunity? And I think I want to reinforce what Emma have shared before. I think the way to capitalize this opportunity is to really build up a diverse and inclusive culture. I think this is a very long-term plan. And I just want to share, like in Howden, we ensure that this D&I culture is embedded in all part of the business. What do we mean? From operation, recruitment, leadership. Yep. And when you have a strong D&I culture, what does it mean? It means that you are attracting and retaining the best talents. For who? For your clients. Yeah. And when you have more clients, what does it mean? More money. And what is amazing is by having that very strong D&I culture, it makes the workforce stay with you. I mean, when I look at my own statistics, our employee turnover is less than 10%, which is much lower than the industry. So I think the collective effort definitely shows you, and this is where statistics shows, this is not just Emma, Shalini, and I love having the, Powerpuff Girl, women's power. Statistics show greater equality, in terms of gender, makes money.
Yeah. I mean, just listening to Jenny talk, you realise that it is multi-dimensional in terms of the solutions required for this. And we know that gender equality brings significant impact on economic prosperity. Right, I mean, that's not up for debate. That is a fact. We know that economic empowerment is probably one of the most important things we need to focus on. So we talked before about you cannot underestimate the value of investing in education for women, in healthcare, and looking at kind of how do you develop that sort of skilled and productive workforce, because by doing that and sort of dismantling those gender barriers, therein lies a huge contributor to financial success. I think I looked at this because I thought the statistics are really interesting. That's a big number, right? 2.1 trillion.
Yes.
However, when I looked at the UN Women's study, that said, but by closing the gender gap, we could boost the economy by $7 trillion by 2030. That again is a big statistic. One of the things that came out is countries with higher gender equality tend to have basically stronger economies. True. Fact. But I think the other thing Jenny talked about as well is thinking about how do you look at the makeup, the demographic of your client base? How do you tap into that and kind of understand as an organisation, as a business, what you need to do to capitalise on what are some pretty big numbers, exciting numbers out there? And I think I looked at things like targeted products and services. So things like micro insurance for women, looking at kind of tailored products. There's a lot of women entrepreneurs and women that running SME businesses out there. How do you tailor products specifically for businesses that are run by females? Because there is absolutely a market out there and an opportunity for that.
Very true.
Financial inclusion. So sort of products and services, women are getting, what did we say earlier? That whole debate around a man is not a plan. So things like, if you look at sort of wealth and investments, targeted products for women to help and support them, because women are getting at the forefront of managing their own money. And
exactly.
And
we need higher coverage for our bags and shoes.
I agree.
So we would check bags and shoes.
Exactly. We need to have higher coverage for our bags and shoes.
There you go, Jenny. You heard it first. This is where Jenny and I are going next.
Product innovation live, happening live.
Absolutely.
Yes,
More
and
coverage
Shalini,
for Jenny's bags and shoes.
And Shalini's jewelleries.
Thanks.
Exactly.
This is not real.
But I do think there is a huge market and opportunity out there for kind of innovation and niche products that recognise that basically the buying habits of clients are changing.
Very true.
I mean, obviously, gender protection gap, another huge subject we could debate, but ultimately still very, very important to recognise that and think about kind of how do we address that. And I think the final thing I'd say is think about the reputational impact on your business and how kind of, important it is to look at how your products and your services, how they are truly catering for the diversity of the kind of client base that you're serving.
Yeah, and when your staff force reflect the microcosm of the community that you serve, it's a win. It's a win
absolutely.
for sure. And I think to your point about product innovation, and that's where, Jenny, to your point about how DEI helps across in different teams. I think when you have a diverse team in product innovation itself, you are looking at every aspect of society and how you can better serve them.
Absolutely.
And that's the right thing to do. And we were chatting, Jenny, before you came, me and Emma, we were just talking about what we're doing. And I was just telling her about how SCI is launching a financial planning series catered to women. So we're working with women in insurance.
Oh my gosh, are you telling me women's math is different from the men's
math? Well, that is true. We all hear that. But no, because I think I was reading, there was a World Economic Forum report that talked about how women don't, I guess maybe it's not front and center, financial planning, because it's, I don't know why or if it's true or that
it's definitely not true. You look at all those great Singapore sale.
Okay.
And the women are doing so much savings. On all the sales, so we definitely do more.
See, that's women's math for you.
Exactly, the women's math.
Yes. Okay. So, how can we educate women more on financial planning? So, we're launching a series together with Women in Insurance. I think it's coming out in July, the first one, and we're doing more of that. We're going to cover. We'll do one across the region as well. So that's something that's important. How can we bring more women through that journey? Educate them. We're also launching. I think Shubi is launching the financial literacy. Smart money moves for the modern woman, a special financial literacy campaign for women as well. I think it's important for us to get educated. And when I think about I took a financial planning qualification, and if I knew that in my 20s, there are so many shoes that I would not have bought. Seriously, it was like that whole carry moment in, when you realize that you bought more shoes than you have savings in your bank, and you realize, oh no, I would have made so much more different decisions.
No, Shalini, I always
you need
say
the shoes?
you only become successful when you have enough failures.
Oh,
you
that's
have
true.
enough learning points.
That is very
if
true.
you did not have enough learning points in
That's
your career,
true.
I'm sorry.
So
you
all
will
those
not be
shoes
successful.
are my failures.
Exactly. All those
Okay.
shoes help to be where you are today, that you can be so financially
God.
prudent and in your investment decisions.
I love that, because every time I stare at I know Winnie has seen my shoe closet, so it's a whole room. And when I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, this is money in the bank.
I'm starting to get a bit worried that this
Why?
podcast, people will be thinking, associating women's leader with fashion and shoes. I know it's definitely more than that. I just want to encapsulate what we share. I think it's so important to have that D&I, because it starts from, how do you understand? So when you are building a global business like a Lloyds and Howden, we definitely need to have a strong foundation of D&I, so that in every category of the clients, we can profile them properly, understand their needs, innovate the right products, and when you come to talk to them, you need to put the right people who understand the background, the culture, the buying decision. That buying affinity helps.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think,
Very
again,
true.
having that broad D&I workforce, makes
so
perfect sense.
multi-generational, multi-gender,
Yes.
all that helps for you to put yourself in the client's shoes, right?
Yes.
The consumer shoes.
Yes.
Very true, very true. Okay, rapid fire.
Yes.
Yep.
Are we ready?
I'm looking
Yes.
forward to rapid fire.
yes, I love it.
Okay, very good. Okay, Emma, one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self. Okay, let's talk about maybe our younger self, maybe in our 30s. I like to think I was a little bit silly in my 20s, but 30s I'm much more confident in myself. Okay, so let's say
One piece of advice.
one piece of advice that you would have given yourself in your 30s.
I'm going to say again, speak up and speak out. Because if you don't advocate for yourself and manage your own career, you are limiting your success.
Very true.
And I think that is one of the key skills all females in the workplace need to learn early on in their careers.
Very true. I think I tell my team that, especially for women, when you go into a meeting, you get invited. When you're in the early part of your career, you get invited to meetings. Well, don't just sit and be a wallflower, right? speak up, say something, whether it's a summary or whatever it is, right? Say something. Be seen and be heard. Very true. Very true, Emma. Jenny, what are your thoughts?
I think if you never try, you never know.
Okay. Very true.
Yep.
Also about being brave. Okay, very good. One word to describe women in insurance, Emma?
Powerful.
Very nice. Jenny?
Very close. Gutsy.
Okay.
Oh, I like that.
I like that too. Okay. What motivates you every day?
Oh, I had to think about this.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Why?
Well, because I think
I guess we don't think about it often, right? Yes.
Exactly that. But I think I mean, it's leading and contributing to the success of the business I work in, and actually, more importantly, building an inclusive culture where my team can thrive. So I'm unashamedly a people first leader. My people are the most important sort of kind of what I strive to sort of be successful and to do every single day. Making an impact in our market, and I think making an impact in the community you live in. So, and that's not just about investing in the generation of future leaders, which I think is really important. That is giving back to the community, actively contributing to the community where you live through kind of CSR and responsibilities, working with different charities, just stopping and thinking that we have a responsibility to also play a part in that as well, I think is really key.
So really being impactful, right?
Yes.
Every day.
Impactful.
I think that's...
every day.
Okay. Jenny?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what motivates me as a wife, as a mother, as a leader. 3 things. My faith, my family, and my team in Howden.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay, that really wraps it up nicely. Okay, Emma, one thing that you could, if you could change one thing, okay, this is like the question they ask if you could be president for a day or whatever. So if you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be?
Misconceptions about how vital the role is of insurance in
so
protecting our economies and our societies.
So true.
And I think, and actually why having a career insurance can be so rewarding and so impactful because of that key role.
So the one thing that you would do is to change that misconception.
Misconception.
Okay, all right.
About the value of insurance.
Very good. Jenny?
Emma, you're so inspiring. I'm going to take this moment to be the real Jenny.
Okay, real Jenny.
The real Jenny.
What did we have just now?
I know. The real Jenny is a very practical Jenny.
Okay.
So the insurance industry is too huge for me to change. So I'm going to take a very practical way.
Okay.
So I'm not going to change anything.
Okay.
But I just want to share that I'm going to keep learning and then to help the insurance industry to be better.
Okay.
That's me.
Very good. So it's about what we can change in our own space, right? Okay, yeah. Very good. And I mean, to your point, Emma, about changing that misconception, I think every day we are looking at what we can do. And, that's why we go out there, we talk to students, we talk to people from the time they're young. I think one of the things that we're doing about addressing or creating awareness among youth about the importance of insurance. I think it's amazing that we have this industry that has such a huge societal impact, and yet people don't realize. So we organized an event recently on building resilience for the business, and there's this one of the topic was about it is not bankable if it is not insurable, which means insurance comes first before you even think about financing. But yet people seem to think it's an afterthought. Right, so it's so important. No one's going to finance
Shalini,
something.
are you doing a next podcast?
Oh my God!
On that.
What do you
I'm
mean?
going to do that.
On that topic, don't steal my idea, Jenny.
I know, like my kids always ask me, Mommy, how long have you been in insurance and how long are you going to do it? I say, I'm going to be in here forever because there's so much that we need to do. And I say, you look at the newspaper every day.
Yes.
Whatever happens in the world, insurance is there.
Absolutely.
Okay? You look at the uncertainty, we are providing the political risk. You look at COVID, we are providing actually all the employees' benefits and business interruption. Don't let me go there.
Yeah.
There's so much things that,
Correct.
I feel we are so intertwined in helping the business and people's lives.
So we've got to get out there and we've got to sell that vision to that young generation.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the kind of the mistakes maybe that's been made. Too many people say, I fell into insurance
I know,
as a career. I didn't choose insurance.
I hate that sentence. Why did you come into insurance? I hate that sentence.
Oh, I chose insurance.
Yes, perfect. So did I.
chose insurance.
So did I.
Wonderful. We have the right people in the room today. Okay. Unconscious bias. Okay. It's a pervasive issue across the industry, including insurance. And, they talk about how identical resumes, if it has a male name, female name, they would generally pick the male compared to the female candidate. It's not a great outcome, but it is what it is today. But it highlights that deep-rooted perceptions that exist today. And how do you think unconscious bias impacts women's career progression in insurance? And what should we be taking to address that, Emma?
It's another huge subject to get into, but I think that it's about basically being and positioning yourself as a destination of choice, an employer of choice for talented people from wherever they may come from. I don't know that I necessarily recognise that piece around that unconscious bias in terms of CVs, but maybe that's because I've worked in organisations for many years now where there's been a huge focus on things like inclusive hiring processes and kind of constantly looking to reinvent and improve kind of the recruitment sort of processes that people go through to make sure that you're actually recruiting on sort of meritocracy and recruiting, the most talented individuals you can. And I think because of that, there is more of a recognition, as Jenny and I have talked a lot about, around leadership teams with a broad mixture of backgrounds and perspectives produce superior results in the long run. And I think genuinely that is accepted now, and people recognise that is the case. We are a global business, as is Howden's, right? So effectively, what you've got to look at is making sure that wherever you are in the world, that the employees you have and the workforce you have is representative of where you are. If you want to deliver, be innovative, deliver sort of great solutions for your clients, if you want to develop a great culture, your recruitment, your hiring practices need to reflect the environment and the culture that you're working in. And I truly believe at Lloyds we that's the position we're in. I think the other thing I'd say is we are seeing a huge improvement in kind of that sort of reducing those barriers to entry for people, not just for women, but and we've talked so much about this today, which is there is notable progress in reducing those barriers to entry for people from socioeconomic backgrounds, from different cultures, from different genders, different abilities. So I genuinely think that we have to focus on kind of continuing to drive that progress forward. If you've got to look back to learn, but you have to look forward to improve.
I agree.
And that's what we need to do. Just keep looking forward to improve all the time.
Jenny?
As I mentioned, I'm practical. Humans being humans, we all have our biases, It's not just on gender.
True.
In all our everyday conversation, the biases actually could be gender, could be race, background, and even Singapore schools.
Yeah.
So I think to address this issue, I think like what, Emma, you have shared earlier, it takes an entire ecosystem to help each other to avoid that pitfall. Now, what do I mean? I mean, it starts from the government. The government should actually, and this is what they are doing, to have the right policy and framework to deter companies from adopting biased behavior. Okay, so you have, the framework. Then the companies, like what Emma have shared, we're all actually doing our part to make sure that we have inclusive hiring practices, leaders who truly believe they want to build a D&I culture. And I think most importantly, it's up to each one of us to play our role to make sure that we step up, we uplift, and most importantly, always having that who should be in a job. The best talent should be in that job, regardless of the race, the gender, as well as the schools.
Yeah. The best person, right?
The best person doing that job.
Yeah.
And if we have the attitude, always having the best person for the job, I think that's a very big step towards, not having that bias clouding our decisions.
Yeah. And I think just each of us, right, taking our own actions, I think collectively can lead to a
There's
change.
a lot. The power of the collective is massive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. To wrap things up, okay, very good. We had an amazing conversation, lots of insights. Now, very quickly, Emma, Jenny, what advice do you have, to inspire women to come into insurance or to take that step up, to take that next big career leap? What is your advice?
So I asked two of the hugely talented young ladies in my team for feedback on this question, because I can't count myself as a young female leader anymore, Shalini.
Right now, like 50s and 60s is the new 30s and 40s.
I was telling Emma, we just have to change the definition.
Exactly. The world has changed it.
Yes.
Okay.
So on that note, basically, this is the feedback they gave me. So they said, build a strong network and seek mentorship. So effectively, access to really sort of key networks that can help women or all young leaders to navigate through what can be quite challenging to kind of, build that network and engage with other young professionals. So organisations like the Young Talent Development Group, which we have at Lloyd's, but is open across the market, Women in Insurance, WIRE, Women in Reinsurance, the Singapore College of Insurance. So, that's about gaining visibility and accessing guidance. And we've talked about this, learning from others. Focus on continuous learning and future-ready skills.
Okay, very true.
So negotiation, conflict resolution, public speaking, confidence were all the things that they talked about as being absolutely critical that they wanted to learn. And they said actually also staying informed on industry trends. So there is so much out there. I mean, it is a huge market with, a huge responsibility to kind of address kind of all the emerging risks and challenges we have. So basically keep abreast of that so that you're always well informed. Start early and stay curious. So again, even for graduation, get out there, understand what different industries, insurance being a prime example, what different industries can give you in terms of different opportunities, different careers, different roles. Unexpected doors can help you discover your strengths and your passions. So that leap before you look comes back in again. And be resilient and proactive. So have a growth mindset, expertise, self-confidence to progress, constructive feedback, and always asking questions. And then set goals and have strong self-awareness.
Very good. Okay.
So
Jenny?
there you go.
Men and women, there's no better time to join insurance industry. Really, I think this is a huge sponge where I think we can take in so many talents, and where we have seen so many talents, making great career. So, I totally agree with a lot of points that Emma have mentioned, networking, don't let the imposter syndrome, hinder you. You will never be 100% ready for any job. But I think more than that, be authentic, have fun, enjoy what you're doing, and just learn to be adaptable and pivot along as you go.
That's true.
Like, seriously, 30 years ago, would I ever imagine, in school that I will be here talking to you, Shalini and Emma?
No, I agree.
We all learned to be adaptable. I think, but most importantly, please be accountable and take ownership. I think that's all I have to say.
Very good. Okay, what an uplifting conversation we have. It's morning for us, and this is like a shot of double espresso. Having Emma and Jenny in the room, and I hope it inspires our listeners as well and our audience that we have. And I just want to thank you, Emma. Thank you, Jenny, for making time and for sharing your personal journeys and what has inspired you, the challenges that you faced, and I hope that it inspires our audience out there. So look out again. Thank you, Emma. Jenny. Thank you, everybody. Look out for our announcement for our next episode. I think it's the history of financial lines, if I'm not mistaken, but it could be something different as well. But we look forward to you coming in, sharing your thoughts about the podcast as well. And we hope to have other inspiring leaders and speakers as well for our next episode. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Emma and Jenny.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful.
Am I allowed one final quote, Shalini?
Sure, go ahead.
One final quote. So I found this, and I don't know the source of it. But it really resonated with me. And we talked a lot about advocacy and the power of women. It says, "You find your allies, you speak with one voice, and you'll make more noise than you imagined."
I love that.
So that I wanted to just leave you with that thought in your head.
Very
Not
good.
so sure.
There we go.
I think Howden has enough of the Jenny noise.
Thank you very much.